Okay, so this is a one-man college football show, and that means it's news, notes, and jokes.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I'm not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So always sports related, we have a good time. Now, I must start this by giving you Spencer Hall's nomination for Cole McDonald and Banner Society's Bradley Van Pelt Award, after which I will tell you what that award is and why I'm here for it. But first, this is Spencer's entry. The last real run-and-shoot quarterback alive, California native Cole McDonald, committed to Hawaii and then really committed to Hawaii by growing a huge head of blonde dreads, getting a tattoo of the state, and playing like a cartoon amalgam of every free-firing quarterback to ever play the position for the Rainbow Warriors. That means sometimes he'll throw 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in the same game, as he did in a win against Arizona to open the season. And sometimes he'll wing it for 4 TDs and over 400 yards like he did the following week in a win over Oregon State. He's going to fumble, and he will throw more interceptions, and he will sometimes look like he is running and simultaneously trying to put out an invisible kerosene fire consuming his entire body while looking for an open receiver. Now, he will also play as hard as any QB in the universe, even in doomed situations when there is little chance of a comeback. Trailing big late against Air Force in Week 8, McDonald zipped down the field, getting the Warriors into the red zone before throwing a ball that ricocheted off of a defender's hip twice. The defender was on the ground, and then a knee before landing in the arms of Air Force's Milton Bug III for a 92-yard interception return touchdown. Ugh. It was the kind of demoralizing, cursed bounce that shatters some quarterbacks' brains for a second, causes them to hesitate for a moment before making a perfunctory attempt to catch the defender with the ball without getting blindsided along the way. Some quarterbacks will do that. Cole McDonald, who played part of the 2018 season with his scrotum swollen with blood from an undrained internal bleeding, tore behind after Bug. McDonald started at around the Air Force 15-yard line. McDonald made a valiant leap and missed completely. He watched Bug cross the goal line from the turf after running at least 60 yards to catch someone he wouldn't catch after a freak interception in a game Hawaii was already losing by 23 points late in the fourth quarter. The game wasn't over though, and it's McDonald realizing as much, more than any of his tats or dreads or outrageous stat lines, that makes him the clubhouse leader for the BVP. Now, what the hell is the BVP? Well, as Spencer put it, the most important player in college football in 2019 will be this season's Bradley Van Pelt Award winner. In 2018, the most important player was the Bradley Van Pelt Award winner. And yes, Bradley Van Pelt has always been the most important player on your team, and he will always be the most important player in college football teams of the future. How can one man, a quarterback, who played 3 seasons for Colorado State from 2001 to 2003, won no serious national awards, who played for a Mountain West team, be the best player on any team right now? Because Bradley Van Pelt is a symbol for the players who make the sport matter. The undersold and largely unsung hero of a program's breakthrough season. The bell cow for a mid-major punching above its weight. The store brand version of another team's marquee superstar. The VVP of a team dominates his own way and mostly on his own terms. The quarterback might not have the greatest passing arm, for instance, but still passes for 3,000 yards despite a throwing style described as speculative. The BVP of a team will not slide, just as Van Pelt never slid, even when he really should have. The BVP of a team may spike the ball off of a rival's head after making a big play simply because he can. Spencer goes on. More accurately, BVPs are the most college football player standing out. They have obvious flaws: too short, too frantic, too big, too small, too uneven in production, but produce anyway, often winning when they have no right to and excelling in their own slightly off-cut fashion. BVPs aren't perfect, but they are, in their moment, perfection. Sadly, no existing award properly honors them, a grievous oversight with a simple fix. We will all have to make our own. Now, there's a link in the description pointing you to the awesome award, and please patronize bannersociety.com. It's awesome because the BVP of a team, more than anything else, will win. He may not even set records or something close to records in the process. Bradley Van Pelt, after all, was verifiably great and almost became the first college football player to pass for 3,000 yards and rush for 1,000 yards in a single season. The BVPs of a team leave my favorite kind of legacy behind them, the kind everyone remembers but may not appreciate in full, at least not as much as they should. Thank you for that, Spencer. Now, they call this the B block. I'm going to call it the Group of 5 block because the Houston Tankers host the Pony Excess Unadulterated Righteous Revenge, or as I call them, at 6:30 on ESPN, which means that the game probably already happened when you're watching this segment, but like an offensive lineman caught leaning before the snap, we are committed and going forward. And really, this one shouldn't be close anyway. SMU's offense is humming like a 67 Shelby GT 500 called Eleanor. Offense looking like stable owned by Chief Mini Horses. They score a lot of points. They put up a lot of yards. Thursday's matchup will be the 35th between the in-state rivals, with Houston holding the all-time advantage at 21-12-1. The Mustangs, though, have won 2 of the last 3, including a 45-31 win over then number 17 Houston in Dallas in 2018. Check this out. Ben Hicks, Arkansas's Ben Hicks, Chad Morris's Ben Hicks, threw 318 yards, 4 tutties in a game. Wow. The last 2 wins for SMU over UH have been against ranked UH teams. And not only is SMU 7-0 to start the season for the first time since 1982, but the Mustangs have outscored opponents 79-20 and outgained them 1,033-394 in the first quarter. And should be even easier with Clayton Tune, even if, he plays. Tune is the not De'Aaron King at quarterback who missed the game against UConn with a bum hamstring. Dana Holgerson said Tune is a go, but if he ain't, oof. Dana's kid, Logan, he went 7 of 15 for 123 with 3 sacks against the Huskies. This is a Huskies team so bad the American won't even miss them when they're gone. Logan Holgerson's QBR looked more like an ACT score at 23.7, but Logan can't help a defense that's about to face an offense that just ran 109 plays for 655 yards against Temple. Shane Buechele has thrown for over 2,100 yards in 7 games and is a catalyst to a dynamic offense coordinated by Rhett Lashley. If there was ever a game for UH to run the ball, this is it. And my favorite fact about this game, both Kyle Porter and Shane Buechele are former Texas Longhorns, which means Texas loses this game by default. Now, this block is the SEC block. Maybe we'll call this the C block. Now, the biggest game in the SEC this weekend features number 9 Auburn traveling to Baton Rouge to unseat the undefeated number 2 LSU Tigers, they hope. The last time Auburn tried to beat an undefeated team, they got their tails chomped by the Florida Gators. This time, it will be against a program that has won its last 9 straight at Tiger Stadium against Auburn. But this could also be a game for Bo Nix to do his best to show out against a pass defense that ranks 64th in the country, but features the Jim Thorpe Award semifinalist at safety in Grant Delpit and a shoo-in freshman All-American in Derek Stingley. Stingley has 3 picks this year and might add to that number against a true freshman quarterback prone to get happy feet, and I'm not talking about the movie, who sees more ghost in coverage than Casper's Scare School. Nix has completed just 46.2% of his passes, that's 36 of 78, against top 25 opponents this season for just 422 yards. Yikes. And he won't have Boobie Whitlow to lean on, who was one of the SEC's best tailbacks when he was lost to injury in the loss to Florida. Cam Martin and Shane Shivers are capable, but they have to be more than that to beat LSU and to try to keep playing with an LSU offense that's been tastier than a bowl of Louisiana gumbo. Joe Burrow has been nothing short of obscene through 7 games. He's averaging 355 yards passing and completing 79.4% of his throws. What? The LSU offense puts up 50 points and 539 yards of offense a game, but this might be the game for Auburn defensive tackle Derek Brown to put together another outstanding game. He had a career-high 9 tackles against LSU last year, and he had 3 tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble against Texas A&M this year. He's also one of 5 players on the 2019 Auburn squad to total 100 or more career tackles. Think about how hard that is as an interior defensive lineman. Against Florida, he recovered 2 fumbles and returned 142 yards. At 6'5", 318, he needs to collapse the LSU pocket if the boys from Alabama stand a 6'9" chance of getting this. Stupid. This isn't even Creed Humphrey's final form. This is the OU block because, well, it's my squad. To many Oklahoma Sooners fans, the offensive line has played grade A football through 7 games, but Lincoln Riley hasn't thought that's always been the case for the offensive line's best player, Creed Humphrey. By all accounts, the center is one of the most talented players on the roster. In fact, Lincoln Riley himself called Creed Humphrey the most talented player on last year's team as a redshirt freshman. Remember, last year's team had, among others, Kyler Murray and Marquise Brown, who were first-round draft selections last year. The expectation this year was for Humphrey to lead a mostly inexperienced offensive line and perhaps have a decision to make in January about whether he would like to return to OU in the spring. ESPN's Mel Kiper listed Humphrey as one of the best centers in the 2020 NFL draft-eligible class. Heading into OU's game against Kansas State, Riley stressed he wanted Humphrey to meet expectations set for him in-house. Riley said, "We set the bar pretty high for him, and Bill Bedenbaugh has done a great job with him trying to challenge him because he can play better. I mean, there's no doubt about it. His good or his okay is still most people's good, but he can play better." Bedenbaugh echoed Riley's sentiment and said he's discussed Humphrey's play with Humphrey, but he's not worried about him. Bedenbaugh said, "Humphrey's playing good, but we've had talks. He has got to play at a higher level. I think the last 2 weeks he has. Against Houston, he was really good. After that, he tapered off. The last 2 weeks, he's been better. So, does he have to be better? Yes, just like everyone else." Now, what seems to be clear is Humphrey plays his best and communicates his best with OU's first-team offensive line next to him. With guards Marquise Hayes and Tyrese Robinson and tackles Eric Swinson and Adrian Ely on the line of scrimmage next to him, he's shown what kind of player he is. Continuity is important on the offensive line, particularly at Oklahoma. But even as Humphrey and the offensive line have shown signs of immaturity and inconsistency, they're rolling up opposing defenses in run blocking and pass protection. The Sooners averaged 612.9 yards per game and over 273 yards rushing per game. The Sooner offensive line was one of 24 across the country selected to be placed on the 2019 Joe Moore Award midseason honor roll. Oklahoma won the award last season. Trophy is still in Norman. This season, the Sooners ranked first, number 1, in yards per pass attempt, 12.6, in yards per rush attempt, 6.9 in the country. OU is averaging a nation-leading 9.6 yards per offensive play, which is nearly 2 yards more than the team with the next highest average, LSU, at 7.9. Last year's Oklahoma team set the FBS single-season record by averaging 8.6 yards per play. The Sooners also rank 4th nationally by allowing just 0.7 sacks per game, 5 sacks in 7 contests. But Humphrey isn't thinking about winning awards. He's thinking about winning games. He said, "We are not focused on that. We have a long ways to go, and our offensive line knows it. We just got to stay focused and work on being the best versions of ourselves we can be." What we're seeing is this isn't even Creed Humphrey's final form. Now, perfunctory Big Ten block, even as sometimes I would rather watch grass grow than Big Ten football. Ohio State and Wisconsin, the feature is a rarity. The nation's number 1 and number 2 ranked defenses in the country get to challenge each other head up with Heisman hopefuls on both sides. The Buckeyes feature perhaps the 2020 NFL Draft's first overall pick in Chase Young, the nation's 4th leading rusher in J.K. Dobbins, and a head coach who has yet to lose in 10 games in Ryan Day. The Badgers feature the nation's leading rusher in Jonathan Taylor, a defense that's pitched 4 shutouts in 7 games, and the worst loss of any Power 5 team this side of Tennessee. A tip of the cap to you, Illinois. And while I'd like to continue to make jokes about Wisconsin, I'll just tell you how good Ohio State has been and why I think they're really the nation's best team through week 8. Ohio State's defense has allowed just 3 touchdown passes this season, which is tied for the fewest in the entire country. The Buckeyes have won 13 straight games dating back to last season, the 2nd longest streak in FBS. Justin Fields' 22 touchdown passes ranks 10th best in single-season history. Ohio State's 66 tackles for loss is tied for the most in the nation and have come by 23 different players. The Buckeyes are 30-1 at Ohio Stadium against Big Ten opponents since the start of the 2012 season. And the Badgers? They beat Michigan. Yay! All right, now our main story is about the nation's number 1 tight end, Arik Gilbert. On Wednesday, at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia 5-star prospect and number 1 tight end in the country, Arik Gilbert, committed to LSU. He chose the Bayou Bengals over a Final 3 that included both Alabama and Georgia, which is where most folks crystal balled him. He is the third 5-star to join LSU's 2020 recruiting class, and the first 5-star tight end to emerge since Isaac Nauta in 2016, the first 5-star tight end in 3 years. And you'll see why. Gilbert is 6'6", 255 pounds. He's a matchup nightmare out of Marietta High School in Marietta, Georgia, and the commitment is significant for the Southeast, and I'm not just talking about the conference. His hometown of Marietta is a little more than an hour's drive away from the University of Georgia. Means John Decoster and Ed Orgeron beat out Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, and Kirby Smart. This kiddo's recruitment has been almost as wild as 5-star tailback Zach Evans, and we're still riding that crazy train. First, it felt like Georgia was a slam dunk. Then Bama closed the gap. Then Georgia rode Bama's bumper into the slingshot as Tennessee and Clemson caught up to form up and get in position to go 3 wide with Bama when the time came to try to run down what we thought was UGA. Now Gilbert took visits to Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, and most recently, Georgia. Again, he gave UGA his last visit. So it always felt like dogs on top until the moment he picked up the purple and gold. It ain't Muhammad Ali shaking up the world, but put it this way. The 247 crystal balls was trending Alabama for the last few weeks, favoring the Tide at 88% before Gilbert's decision. And Gilbert didn't even tell his own mama where he was headed and let the speculation grow throughout his recruitment despite knowing himself for weeks. And that was fine with Mama Gilbert. Now, his mother, Akiba Gilbert, told Dog Nation she didn't care where her son chose to play ball next year. Before Arik's announcement, she said, truthfully, I don't want to know until he reveals to everyone else. I feel my role is just to give him the right things to think about while he makes his decision. God bless you, Mrs. Gilbert. She gave her son some central questions to ask himself as he went through this process that will bring so much attention and change to his life. Like, did it feel like the right fit? Did the football program fit with his relationship with the coaches? Did he feel he would be utilized the right way in the right program? Screensaver came up. I can't even believe it. We've been doing that long. But Arik Gilbert relished playing, well, where he's going and what the game is going to be. Where am I going to go next? He told ESPN, everybody thought I was going to Georgia, Alabama, and I didn't even really stray from that. I just let them stay the course. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, I'm thinking in my head, where do I want to go? Talking to Coach Brady, talking to Coach O. I really made my decision like a month ago, something like that, but I just kept it on the low. He told 247 Sports just before he chose LSU, I just thought, here it goes. They're going to find out. He picked up the hat and nobody said anything. They all thought he was joking. That's how close to the vest he was playing this. Means that the Dogs lost out on a kid who is already as big and rawly gifted as Travis Kelce. I don't think James Coley lost the Dogs Arik Gilbert, or I should say that he lost them the Arik Gilbert sweepstakes. His mother called the meeting with Coley one of the most memorable aspects of the visit, but Georgia's offensive scheme might have. Just look at how UGA has used tight ends this year. Eli Wolf has just 9 catches for 116 yards and 0 TDs. Charlie Werner has just 4 for 15 yards and 0 TDs. And we're 7 games into the season, all right? I get that going left and right, but you also want to be a power running team, and that's just not what he's going to help you do. At LSU, tight end Thaddeus Moss has 14 catches for 201. Stephen Sullivan has 11 catches for 121. In a year where Joe Burrow might win the Heisman by throwing passes to the trio of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Terrence Marshall, the addition of Joe Brady to the offensive staff has found ways to get the ball to the tight end, even so. And now, LSU has a commitment from the second coming of Gronk. Might be over for y'all in the SEC, just to put it gently, mildly. And I have to underscore how big a loss this is for UGA. I mean, Kirby Smart and UGA assistant Del McGee had been pursuing Gilbert as hard as a pack of starved dogs over the last 3.5 years. Also, means they lost out on a second straight Georgia native in the 2020 class. 5-star defensive end Myles Murphy, the nation's number 4 overall prospect, chose Clemson earlier this year. As a matter of fact, just 3 of the top 25 2020 prospects are committed to Georgia. In the 2019 class, the state's number 1 player, Jaden Hazelwood, picked Oklahoma over Georgia. And just 4 2019 recruits inside the state's top 25 rankings picked Georgia. Kyle Hamilton picked Notre Dame. Justin Igbe picked Bama. Owen Papo picked Auburn. And Andrew Booth picked Clemson. Just Trayvon Walker and Dominic Blaylock picked UGA among the state's top 10. With Gilbert's commitment to LSU, looks like the 2-for-10 ratio is going to hold true. For LSU, this is an amazing pickup. 247 Sports national analyst Steve Wiltfong reported LSU personnel guys started sprinting up field during Wednesday's practice as they're preparing to face a top 10 Auburn team because they were unprepared for this. Wiltfong also reported LSU's top 4 commits ended up in the fold in a bit of a surprise, right? 5-star cornerback Elias Ricks popped on Christmas when USC and Ohio State were perceived early favorites. Top 247 receiver Raheem Jarrett committed on April 27th when Tennessee looked like the one to beat. It only took 1 visit in April for another blue chip receiver, Jermaine Burton, to join the fold. Gilbert adds to what is now, seriously, the top receiving core recruited among all 2020 classes. The way people were talking about the 2019 class at Oklahoma, the way they're going to be talking about this LSU 2020 class. Moral of the story is real G's move in silence like lasagna. And all my reporting, as well as what's out there, says that this is done for Arik Gilbert. Dog Nation wrote before the announcement, Gilbert and his people are the antithesis of a family that will entertain, stomach, or even tolerate a flipped commitment. But there's always the transfer portal. All right, that's it for me. Let me know what you think about this thing in the comments below. I enjoyed it. Deuces.